All right, so we have another episode on Learn or Be Learned with our special guest, Gao. Gao. No. All right, that's the best I can do on a short notice, but thank you everyone for listening and thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks for having me. I mean, you
Yeah.
gave it a try. It's how, but you started well and then got out of it. But
Yeah.
yeah, we're good.
Yeah. I can roll my R's, but that's something I still need to I think I speak Tamil, which is like Hindi dialect,
Oh,
right?
okay.
Indian language. But we don't have a lot of back of the throat
That's
noises.
true.
So
I
it's
know
definitely
Arabs,
something.
Arabs and
Yeah,
the
yeah.
Netherlands people can do it well. Yeah.
Right. Um, but anyways, thank you so much for being here and I usually start by asking the guest if you could share a little bit about your backstory and how you got to where you are today. I think that'll help us and the audience kind of piece together your perspectives.
Awesome. And Dumelang, I love to start by greetings, and I do greet in my native language. So
Uh-huh.
Dumelang Lokai. And when I'm saying Dumelang, in direct translation, Dumelang is agree, you know. And we are here with Shiva at Learn or Be Learned. I flipping love that. Learn or be learned. So when you show up here, what is it that you're agreeing to? What is your intention? And Lokai is, where are you? Locate yourself. Are you here with us, body, mind, and heart? Or a part of you is somewhere else, stuck in what should have been and all that. So with that invite, I just invite you to meet me and meet Shiva for the first time. You may be familiar with him, but this is the first time you're meeting him while he's having a conversation with me, and you are also a different version from who you were 30 minutes ago or even yesterday. So when we show up from the space of not knowing, because I understand you have amazing guests here and they've shared amazing things. So while you're meeting me and I'm meeting you, I choose not to know and show up for the present moment. And with that said, may we let go of what we know. And with that invite, when I say let go of what you know and choose to be present, what I'm saying is normally you listen to understand. We may say learn or be learned. And it's kind of like, yeah, I mean, I've heard that many times. Authenticity, I've heard that many times. Confidence and all that. It's words that you've heard, but you don't experience it in your physical life, in your external life. So when I say choose to be present, it's more being and allowing your body to communicate with you. We're going to do that in reverse. While you're an intelligent person who knows what you know, but today we're going to give the body the permission to teach us something. That is, we're going to listen, receive, whether it's the trigger, the discomfort, the pain, all those sensations. We're just going to make love with everything that is. So with that said, how much is my name? I come from Botswana in Southern Africa, and I've been living in Germany for 10 plus years. And I help people, which is like my big why, people to really embody their freedom of individuality. That is their uniqueness, and also embody their sexual sovereignty, so that they can create soul aligned relationships and abundance and thrive in the boardroom and bedroom. And I come from a very traditional family, and this is why for me freedom of individuality is very important, because I've seen in my culture, society, even family, where people are not being who they're meant to be, and despite them thinking that I've got my shit together, they didn't. They were miserable, so I was a product of that. As much as I feel like I am a really typical, I would say, version of my mom, but somehow there was a part of her that was like, "You are not like my other children," So I grew up feeling like I'm not really accepted, and as much as I was fighting, and I remember as a child, I say this to her, when she said, "You are not like any of my children," I said, "That's why my name is even different. I can't be like them," And she looked
Yeah.
at me with, oh God, I don't know what I'm gonna do with this child, that kind of thing,
Yeah, yeah.
But I mean, that was a cheeky, I don't care kind of response. But come to look at it now, That's what it is. We are unique, we are different. And when we let go of trying to fit in and embrace who we are, that's where the magic happens. So I somehow fought to be myself. But along the way, the wound of really, is it okay for me to be me? Can you just accept who I am? It somehow won, because in relationships, I was more in those toxic relationships where, as much as I felt like I wanted to be accepted and loved, I chose people who were, I would say, broken. Somehow they felt also that they didn't fit in, they were not loved, and it was kind of like we're attracting each other at that level. So it got painful, where at some point I lost my corporate job, which was like my big identity. It was my big
Mm.
identity. It was something that I would say it esteemed me when I go around telling people that I'm an accountant and I work in this amazing company and all that. It felt good, but deep within, I was miserable. When it comes Friday, I was like a little bit happy, and I started getting already that anxiety by Sunday. It's Sunday already, and I went through an experience of losing my mom, and afterwards, while I was down and frustrated, no job, losing my mom, and because as much as we had our own back and forth, there was also desires that I had, like I want to do this for my mom and all that. And it's like that was just taken away from me. I didn't get a chance to do that, you know. And then I was separated from my children. My ex-boyfriend, and I'm not saying my husband, we had children outside marriage, so which is like something that in my dreams I never thought, having children with someone who were not married, and I got to raise the children by myself. One day he can just walk in and say, "It's my turn. You don't have anything." And we started going to court, and yeah, it got ugly. But in that not
Mhm.
knowing who I was, in that powerlessness, in that pain of the very thing that esteemed me, because as mothers especially, we are esteemed by our children. The society has, like, we marinated in this thing, and we shame women who cannot have children. And I got to connect with that woman when I was separated from my children for 5 years. And it was even worse because I had children but I could not be with them. So it was kind of like a highest level of shame that I was in. I didn't even know what to tell people. And another thing is, people don't give a shit as well. No matter what you tell them, they'll buy what they buy into. They don't care. So I went through that, but through that pain, I fucking found myself. And if I have to go through that again to find myself, I will. And this is the reason why me and you are having this conversation.
Right. I love that because through every great pain comes something worth of value, right? Nothing worth anything comes easy, and that includes figuring out yourself, your authenticity, what you stand for, what you believe in. I think it's really those dark times that really test all of that, your belief,
Yeah.
your faith, your value, um, whether you're religious or not, or how religious, right? Everything gets tested when you're down. So I think that's so transformative. You know, going backwards just a little bit, you kind of touched on this idea of authenticity, and I think that goes hand in hand with confidence, right? Because I think someone who shows up present, attentive, is usually more authentic because they're living in this moment right now at the fullest of their abilities. So I think that, kind of aids in confidence, but more. So what is the link here between authenticity, confidence? Why are these important?
I love that. Because authenticity, like you said, it's being who we truly are. And when I say who we truly are, it's not because we get to go back. When I'm talking about the work that I do, first thing when I start working with somebody, it's have looking at where that person comes from. Who are you, in the sense of, when we're talking about who are you in the human physical world, you will tell me your name and your surname. And they're a
Mm,
big part of who you are. But let's look at the surname. How many generations has that surname been existing? What are the imprints that are held by our ancestors and all that? So we often identify with the name. Like, actually, it's quite interesting because in my native language, the identity card is called Omang. And in direct translation, who are you? Right. So
mm,
we need to look at that. Who are you? And you may say your name has a frequency. And the frequency, it also connected. If you have not disconnected and cleared what is not yours and aligned with the truth, you may think that you are authentic, and this may rub people the wrong way, but it may be the authenticity in alignment with your family values, with the societal values, with the spiritual values, whatever religious system that you're in, the political system and the medical system and all that. Is it really your truth? Or somehow there is a part of you that is not in alignment with that. And along the way, when we don't ask ourselves questions, when we don't question whatever that we are handed, we don't even know who we are. We become numb to who we are. I always say this, and I'm not saying this in a mean way or anything. I say you can't be religious and authentic. You can't be traditional and be authentic. And the truth of it is you are following the rules and whatever that you've been handed. So if you get to be authentic, it can be, I flipping love sex. And the religion will tell you that's a sin,
Right.
whatever stories that we're given. But we are
Right.
spiritual, we're spiritual, sexual human beings, because it's a natural feeling. But when you look at the culture, the society, the religious system, they'll tell you otherwise. We marinated into that is a sin. So authenticity is, what is it that turns you on? Who am I being? Because there is a difference between being and performing. Right now, I'm going to give an example even about being intimate, and I love using, when I say life is all about making love, I love using the examples of being intimate, because that is like, for me to be attracted to you, there has to be something that pulls me towards you. Like I look at you and I'm like, there is something here. There is something that wakes up within me, right? So
Yeah, right.
even for us to give birth to what we desire, you can't give birth to what you do not conceive. You get to feel it within you. And I believe every idea that comes through, you can be rich, you can be wealthy, you can be prosperous. You deserve a love and that meets you in your ugly and beautiful moment. That means you can be who you are and still be loved. You don't have to be nice for you to be loved. You don't have to be a good girl to be loved, while maybe there's some wild desires that you need to share with your partner, right? So when you're talking about that being intimate with someone, you are being led by something, and for you to be able to experience that, you get to be present, right? So authenticity is, what is it that I really need? What is it? Who am I being? What is it that I desire? What turns me on? It's you and only known for you. It's not about, did my family create that, my friends, or whatever, And when we're talking about confidence is kind of like, it's also a frequency. And I say authenticity is a frequency, in the sense of, sometimes because of your background, it may be wounded authenticity, Because even when you're talking about, do you
What
speak
kind
your
of
truth?
authenticity?
Wounded.
Wondered. What does that
Yeah.
mean?
No, wounded authenticity is more like, yes, I'm authentic. When people tell you that, oh, this is who I am, and then kind of like they're thinking authenticity is kind of like, I'm going to tell everybody off, I'm going to tell them shit and all that. It's more wounded, it's more surface level, because you
Uh,
can be authentic. I'll give you an example where I was a child growing up, I had lots of anger, and I always knew that I'm authentic. Like, I'll say what I say, whatever, it doesn't matter. But on the other hand, I'll say that, and then from there I'll go back into guilt. It will come from anger. It doesn't build, especially that from there I feel bad about what I said. If it was in alignment with who I am and coming from my soul, I wouldn't feel guilt after I say that. My purpose is to build people, it's not to break them. But if I'm coming from the wounded, I'm gonna break people. That's why I feel guilty afterwards. And when you're holding into wounded authenticity, you may think that you don't care, but you fucking do care. But because you are not aligned with your soul truth, which could be that love, which could be, because even when you're talking about being of service, it may be that right now when I talk to you, you are so broken that the thing that you need is hope. You need a hug. You need
mm,
someone to tell you that it's going to be okay. But what I can tell you is, if you want to thrive, you can't live on hope. So if you keep telling yourself the same story and waiting for someone to give you hope is gonna limit you. It's not the energy that you need to thrive. So after you get that hope, for you to go into the next level, you might need a kick. Wake the fuck up. That shit happened, but it's not who you are. I'm still serving you, right? So
yeah.
authenticity, even when you talk about speaking your truth, it's your soul truth. your true desires. It's not like telling other people off. And confidence is that energy of, I've got you. That means with confidence, if I come and tell you something or something that I want to do, or I'm selling something, when you're talking about entrepreneurs, and you telling me that, no, I don't want to buy that. If I don't have confidence, I'm going to believe that what you're saying is about me and what I'm offering.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to shrink, contract, make it mean whatever that I make it mean. But if it's embodied confidence, I know that Shiva, whether you are in this or not, I'm going to make it. It has that element of conviction. And when the
Right.
two or the three are combined, authenticity, confidence, and conviction, you move differently. And people who are not in alignment, it's either they get out of the way or they follow you. Because people
Yeah.
at the end of the day, they may like you or not. The question is, do you know who you being? Because it has that element of you are disruptive. Some people may not like you. At times it's family. At times it's your spouse, the person that you sleep with, that you're hoping that they will cheer you on. But you being in your extraordinary vision scares the shit out of their unworthiness, of their insecurities. Kind of like, are they really gonna love me when they make it in life? And you can't succeed with somebody like that.
Yeah. I love those three values that you mentioned, or I guess three personalities that you would embody, which is conviction. Um, you said conviction, and then there was two more. It was
Confidence and authenticity.
confidence. Right, right. So confidence and authenticity. These three together, you know, as you were speaking, and gave me some clarity. Where that's so true, right? Because if you show up with conviction, so you have extraordinary faith in what you're doing. You had the confidence that I don't know how, but I'll figure it out. And then the authenticity, like this is truly what I enjoy or I love doing, which will keep you going in hard times. So it's like the trifecta of success in any area of your life, whatever you're trying to be, whatever identity that you're resonating with and trying to become, whether that's a mother, whether that's an entrepreneur. I really like that. I wanted to ask, can one person be authentic and not have confidence? Is that possible? Have you worked with any clients where they are their authentic self, but they have a confidence issue? Or does that go together? I mean, do you have to have confidence to be authentic?
They go together hand in hand, but on the other hand, even if you're talking about authenticity and confidence, I mean, these are the frequencies that evolve, right?
Mm,
If I'm operating from the wounded authenticity, I'm still authentic and I'm confident, but on the other hand, at what level? You understand?
mm,
It's kind of like when you are operating from that wounded authenticity and like confidence that is, at times it's confidence that is more like external, there's a difference between confidence and just confidence and embodied. Confidence that is embodied is kind of
right,
like, this is who I'm being. It's not dependent on what I have. Sometimes people feel
right.
confident based on what I have. But the question is, when you lose all that shit, what happens? When somebody rejects you, how do you feel about yourself? So embodied confidence, it's you. It's not dependent on who I have, whether I'm married, single, whether I know somebody familiar, whether I have a car, a house or not, because I went through a process of losing all that shit, and I've been confident all my fucking life. This is one thing that I
Yeah,
can tell you. But the confidence that I have now is different from the confidence that I had back then. Because it was more like, let's say the essence of that has always been within me. But then because of feeling not loved and accepted, I kind of like wore it as a mask. But how was my self talk? You understand?
mm,
So if I wanted something because of the essence of the confidence that I embodied, and I believe everyone has that, when I wanted something, I would go towards it and I'll have that. I'm going to make it, I'm going to have, because I wanted it. I took the action knowing that it's done. When I sit in front of you, whether I want a job or whatever, because I want it, I'm going to have it and I'm going to show up to that. But the
yeah,
moment I get that, oh my God, they're gonna find that I'm a fraud. Now because it's
yeah,
not embodied, all the stories kicks in. What am I gonna do? And I don't show up as the person who showed up the first time because it's not coming from within me. So it's a different kind of confidence, but it's not sustainable.
Yeah. I love that because you were talking about how it's not the question, and it's good because it reframed the way I view the question. It's not, do you have confidence? It's how much confidence do you have, right? It's more of a spectrum of what you can be, because I was thinking black and white, can you have confidence and authenticity? But it's really how much, because like you said, and I think we've all experienced this, that when you start something new, it's almost like not necessarily delusional confidence, but you have confidence that you'll figure it out, but you don't know what you're doing. But
Yeah,
as you keep going, you develop competency because you're getting good at something. So then you have that extra confidence that's like built through that foundation, right, of work.
yeah.
Um, yeah, I mean, this is awesome because my last episode, we ended it with talking about your authenticity, your authentic self, and then we kind of start this one here, which has kind of given me clarity because when I started this show, I had just decided to, or I was in the transition of leaving medicine. I was going to be a doctor, and I'd wanted to do medicine my whole life. But from what you were saying, it kind of made me realize perhaps that wasn't my authentic self when I realized what I was getting into. It's I had the right intention of what I wanted, and it wasn't this. Because when people kept asking, "Why are you leaving? Why are you leaving?" You're gonna have good money, you'll have a good job, a good career. What are you doing? And I remember so many people disappointed in what I decided, and I couldn't explain it at the time. I would tell people, I'd say, honestly, I'll probably get back to you later when I figure it out. Because right now, I could just, it was a gut feeling, like an intent. I felt that it wasn't the calling, but I couldn't explain why. And I think now I've gained some clarity that it probably wasn't resonating with my authentic self. Yeah.
I've love what you said because I've worked with many doctors from Harvard and all that, and now they're practicing, but they are flipping miserable. But when we get to do the deep work, we realize that it's kind of like I wanted to make mama proud. I wanted to make papa proud. And if at all it's something that one
Yeah.
of the parents did or what they kind of like wished for from that parent, from that children, I mean, then you just go ahead and follow with that. But on the other
Yeah.
hand, that does not bring the connection with your parents. You can still have all that. And actually, I had this other doctor who was like, I hate that I'm a doctor. I hate that I even passed it at Harvard and all that because now it's just like something that my mom used to sort of like brag with her friends and all that, but yet she doesn't care about me. So it's kind of like I've worked so hard for all this, but then it's kind of like
For
benefits her.
what?
Like she hates everything about it
Yeah.
just because it's like this is something that is important to my mom because when she talks to her friends and all that, but she doesn't care about her. So at the end of the day, no matter what this is what I'm talking about. No matter what you have, your qualifications and all that, they mean shit if you feel
Yeah.
miserable from within. Especially if you're doing something for other people because you're not gonna get that from anyone. There are times that comes a point where we get to connect to our own inner children and parent our inner children. Even when you're talking about confidence, like magnetic confidence that is coming from within is integrating that inner child aspect of yourself because the inner child
Hmm.
aspect of yourself is connected to your vision. When you say, I don't even know, maybe when I know, I'll come back to you. But when you bring in the inner child is not afraid of starting over. Because that's the aspect of you that learned how to walk. You didn't know how to speak, walk, nothing, tie your shoes, but you learned. But when you come in from this, especially with change, it's more the willingness to be a baby again. And that's magical
Mm,
because it taps into that vulnerability of, I don't know shit. So the question is, are you
yeah.
willing to learn anew?
That's so interesting, right? The vulnerability idea, because then you're, or at least ideally, you're your own parent of your inner child, which is something that some people, if not learned, then don't take risks because they were used to being risk takers when they were with their family. Maybe subconsciously, they don't even realize this is what my fate has now become. But I think that's so eye opening because that vulnerability. can only happen if you are your own parent, because then you're too afraid to take the risk. You care about what people think, your fear of failure. Um, I think there's so many aspects to that fear of failure idea, so that could be its own conversation. But yeah, I think that's totally a component with what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I want to jump in a little bit about this idea of someone who's working on their confidence, someone who is trying to become more and more authentic, because like we talked about, it seems to be more of a spectrum, right? So what what would have been very comforting is years ago when I made that switch away from medicine, if I knew what you were saying today, I think that would have been a bit more comforting. Like, okay, this isn't resonating with my authentic self. At the time, I just couldn't put words to it, right? It just didn't feel good. It wasn't, there was too much stress involved in the field. You, there's a lot of things, but I just didn't feel like I could help people the way I wanted to. But I think short term, what's tough in that situation is people look at you like you failed. The fear of judgment starts to kick in, and the judgment does appear, which is why I think the fear is valid. And I'm sure when you went through your downs and layoffs and everything, it's people look at you and you get all these judgments and everything. What advice do you have at that low point? What were you doing to get out of that?
The most important thing is, this is why I'm big on getting clarity. You get to know your fucking truth. Because if you don't know your truth, you're going to follow anyone and everyone's ideas of you,
Mm,
you know. And I'll give you an example. I love what you shared about people looking at you as a failure and all that. I've been judged from even deciding to come to Europe when, after I lost all my cases with my children. But at the core of my being, I knew that if I make a decision to stay in that toxic environment, with my ex-boyfriend and his girlfriend, who was like the sister-in-law, just like a big blow of betrayal, knowing that
mm,
somebody's a sister-in-law, and then tomorrow you realize, oh, so they're lovers, and then the court is all supporting this. It's kind of like, this is immoral. But if
yeah.
the the court does not care, then I have to deal with all the shit, and it was sucking life out of me. I knew that I'm gonna die, but at the end of the day, the question was, who's gonna be there for my children when they need me? That's what I asked
Mm,
myself first thing. So I made a decision based on me. And second thing is, sometimes I remember the first time when I got a job in this big diamond company back home. I was still with my boyfriend, like the father of my two children. And when I got this job, he said, "You can't take this opportunity because you're gonna be jumping from one job to the other. What does that say?" And all that. Like, this was one opportunity of a lifetime. Everybody wants to work at this
right,
company, and he's telling me
right,
you can't do it. But at the
right.
end of the day, I heard what he said and went ahead and did what I did. And to show that this person was disturbed by, kind of like, you are up leveling so fast, and there was kind of like a competition in the relationship, he quit his job and went somewhere else without even serving notice. Like, it's kind of like, I have to find something that can be either better or at least the same level as yours. So you
Yeah,
see what is happening. If I listen to him,
that was a
at some point
projection.
I was also gonna resent him because he would have misled me. Now comes even in my marriage, where I'm here. I've always known I'm a healer at my core, like since I was a child. And my husband, who is now my ex-husband, and it's not surprising, right? Yeah. So he's telling me that you flipping crazy. This whole thing of healing God and all that, that's just nonsense. I still miss my girl, the one that I met. So for him, it was kind of like, I guess at first it was kind of like, okay, fine, maybe it's just a fantasy is going to fall off. Then at the end, she realized that this woman is really serious, and still, that's the person that I hoped, prayed, expected that he'll be like my support system. But no, he put me through shit, but I still going through that shit. I had to stick with my truth. And now, taking you back to what I learned even through my journey, which is like the advice that I can give you. Like, when I was going through my separation with my children, I remember I had a moment where I had the nudge to start writing. And when I wrote, the words that came through was, "Who are you? without your parents, without your mother, your father, without your religion, without your job, your career, your qualification, your wife, husband. And at the end, it said, who are you without your children? And I started crying because I didn't know who I was. And the truth of it is, if you don't know who the fuck you are, you're going to fall into everyone's idea of who you are. And I remember I was still told when I was angry and all that, and I was told, you need to do the work because you think these children belong to you, but they don't. They are on their mission. Are you willing to find your mission? Are you willing to be on your purpose? So I believe everyone's purpose, before we can talk about so many things about purpose, your purpose first thing is to find who you are, because you can't know what to do, your purpose and all that shit, if you don't know who you are.
Mm. I love that because you see, what was interesting is when you asked the question about your kids, because I think, and I try to make a conscious effort of this is, you know, I plan to eventually have kids someday as well. So I try to remember, this time is not forever where it's just, you and you don't have to worry about other little ones. And what's interesting when you say that is I could totally see how your identity will quickly be consumed with having to take care of other human beings. So when you take that out of the equation, you're like, oh, wow. Because I think we see this a lot with parents whose kids go to college, is they start to have this like realization, like, who am I again, because it's been almost 20 years since they've got to be alone.
Yeah,
So or people that retire early, they tend to
yeah.
not know what to do because they're worked so hard. It was like their baby, right?
Ooh,
That was their baby. So they worked so hard in their business or whatever, and they realize, I don't know what to do,
yeah,
I might as well just go do more work. um, but that's such a great point, is take away everything. Who are you? And I think, you know, greater philosophers than me have talked about this idea, but I think what I'm starting to get it's the essence of, you're the conscious being behind the experience, the human experience.
mm-hmm.
Best way to say this is, you're a spiritual being having a human experience, not a
Yeah,
human being having a spiritual experience, because looks change over time, your
yeah,
health changes over time, your money changes over time, and so does time, right? Nothing is permanent. So
yeah,
then all you really have is experiencing moments.
yeah.
What do you think?
I mean, I just love that, and that's just the truth of it. And this is what I say as well. Like you said, parents, at times even parents even stay in toxic marriages and relationships because they have this illusion that I'm doing it for my children. But at the end of the day, that children gets their emotional instability. It doesn't matter whether you're a
Hmm.
mother and the father is not there and you're blaming him. At the end of the day, the question is, are you fully present with those children, or you're just present but emotionally unavailable and mentally unstable, so you are of no
Yeah.
use. It's just like you causing more harm than the absent parents. At times we get to be real with ourselves. And then when it comes to who we being, we're living in these times of like volatile times, changes here and it's happening at the speed that we can't even, yeah. And the only way that we can deal with that is being present, because you may have templates, especially entrepreneurs and all the strategies, they are amazing, but the truth of it is, they mean no shit if you're not able to be present, if you are not, if you are not connected to yourself, because
Hmm.
first thing that get out of the window when shit hits the fan is the strategy. Who's gonna remember the strategy? Like, even when it comes to all the tools that we use, use this, do the incantation and all that shit is happening right now, and then I'm gonna find no, there's no time for that. But if
Yeah.
you are being, and knowing that all, it's kind of like you get to be your own anchor. You are able to, you can be here anchored while you are still in the middle of the storm, but at the end of the day, you come back to you, because even 20 years from now, we're not gonna be who we are right now. But at the end of the day,
Yeah.
it's gonna still be us who's gonna be facing the life at that time, whatever that is gonna be like, because right now we are in this whatever with technology and all that, it never used to be like this, and here we are dealing with all these things have shifted. But the question is, how are we able to adapt, into this present moment and lead and learn and lead in this time?
Yeah.
Because for me, even when you're talking about a leader is someone who is leading themselves first, because you can't have power over any circumstances if you're not able to lead yourself, right? Whether it's your
Right.
children and all that. So the best strategy is being our true self. The best strategy is being able to be present. And when I talk about presence, when I'm talking about a man who is in the bedroom or a woman who is in the bedroom, for them to have that orgasmic bliss is being fully present and attuned to your own desires and the desires of your partner, right? For you to have that dance. It's not about, I'm going to learn a technique that I saw, especially when it comes to sex. We don't talk about it. No one is teaching people about this. People learn this from porno and all that. And then you come with the grind fast and all that shit. It's kind of like, what the fuck you doing? Because yeah, I mean, the world is full of sexual activity and there's no
Right.
sensuality because people are not present. Men are complaining about women, not that women or their wife not being sexual active. And when you look at it, like I said, patriarchy made women powerless by shutting off their womb. That is, women are not fully connected to that sexual energy because they've been conditioned to believe it's just for procreation or to serve men. So they relate with it in terms of the third person perspective. How do I look? Do you love how I look? Or do you like it when I do it like that? The question is, what the fuck do I want? Where do I want to be? They're not in touch with that. And men as well, it's more the sexual activity because their heart is shut. They have been conditioned not to feel their emotions, so they don't know how to be present because they don't want to go there. It's kind of like scary, and it's quite interesting because I mean, I've worked with men who have been to wars and dealt with a lot of stuff, but when you talk about emotion, they want to run because it's like it's a scary shit, right? So they're not able to be present. The man is using sex to release all those suppressed emotion. And where they're releasing that into a woman. And the woman is going to use that because when I talk about sexual energy, it's a healing energy. It's the creativity energy. It's the energy that is connected even to abundance, to prosperity, So when you using it to heal broken people or using to take all this in whatever that we take, or even sleeping with everyone and you don't know what they're carrying because there's also negative entities and all that, you imagine with people that you really don't want to be with, especially, I mean, I've had this where it's kind of like, yeah, I mean, I don't really want to have sex with this person, but it's just that maybe one reason it could be the person is bringing in the finances, like the whole security part, or it's kind
Yeah.
of like I'm just sexually active and I haven't slept with anyone for a long time. But at the same time, you sit there and it's kind of like I can't wait for this person to finish, or it's your partner, but then all they do is the activity, the performance. This is what I saw. I had that I have to touch the what is it called? No, I forgot the clitoris and all that. You busy rubbing all that. You're not even aware how your partner is responding. Probably it's too sensitive and it's hurting them. But it's kind of like you don't care. You are not present enough. So for a woman to feel safe to open to a man at that level, they need a man who is present enough to hold that space of it's safe for you to let go. Can you trust me? I'm fully attuned. I'm aware when you want me to slow down. I'm aware when you want me to speed up. It's where you even communicate without words being said. That's a fully attuned man. That's also a fully attuned woman who also knows what she wants. You understand? And when it comes to life, it's still the same flipping creation. It's an idea coming through right now. When I take it, do I feel worthy of that which I think I want to create? Whether it's more money, whether it's buying that Lamborghini, whether it's whatever that is, that impact that you want to create, where is it coming from? Is it coming from the core of my being? I felt turned on. I feel guided to do that. Or when it's coming through, you're receiving that, but immediately the masculine energy is kind of like, I don't want to do that shit. Like somehow it causes a misalignment. There is fear, whatever that is coming through. Are you able to be aware? Because this is where when you don't feel safe in your body, when you don't feel worthy, all these things, then they manifest as self-sabotage, procrastination. Where is it coming from? maybe at the core of it is you never felt safe as a child, or one of your parents was not present, and you feel like people are just loving me for what I have. So to sabotage that, don't even make any money. Sit there in scarcity. Or there are not enough men, so I'm just gonna sit with what I have. And I'm afraid that my partner may leave me. So the best thing that I can do is let me just do what he does. I'm not connecting to the fact that I don't want to be penetrated. And when you're talking about trauma, it's even being penetrated when your body is not ready. It's not a big thing that happens by someone. It can happen with your partner, with your husband, or whatever.
Yeah. I think a couple points here. One, definitely I've experienced this, and I have looked more into the idea of the body holding trauma, the body holding because I would have tense muscles, which apparently is just a reaction to the constant stress, to the
Yeah.
point where now it's just tight all the time and you don't know the difference.
Yeah.
Um, which is when I first learned about this idea that the body still holds this physiological stress response, which I find incredibly interesting because it can be so under the radar, so subconscious that you don't even realize that
Yeah.
your body is holding on to these things, which is why I think going back to your idea of, sexual partners and stuff, I think that's why it's so important to be very mindful with who you're spending that present moment with, because, you know, you never know what someone else is energetically dealing with. And I think spirituality and this idea of energies and stuff gets a bad rap sometimes because or a bad rep because people think it's like something crazy. But if even coming from this place of science, right? Atoms have an energetic connection, you know, different Earth and Mars, I mean, different planets have gravitational pull, which is an attraction. What's to say a human being doesn't emit some sort of energetic attraction
Yeah.
the same way a planet does, or the same way two atoms come together? I mean, everything is made of atoms, so then there's some energy there happening, right? So speaking in a more philosophical sense, there is ideas of confidence and authenticity that you can resonate with. And I think when you're with somebody who's vibrating at a lower place, you tend to kind of exchange that feelings in one way or another. It just so subtle. Um, no, I think it's very interesting what you're talking about. What one thing that I'm still trying to understand is this idea of the creative side of sexual energy. How some people say they use that to fuel their endeavors, their goals, their creativity. Um, do you know anything, or have you heard of anything along those lines?
It is a creation energy. It's the life force
Uh-huh.
energy that makes you say yes to life. It is connected to our desires. So it's like it's a huge part of that sexual sovereignty, you know. And this is why I'm saying if you don't use it to create what you desire, you want to attract people who would come and heal on your energy, and then they'll leave you with that shit and move on. And you want to be stuck. At times, there are people who they were doing well or just well, okay, not like extremely abundant, but they were doing well for themselves. And come one person, they sleep with that person, and it's kind of like the finances also takes a drop, you know. So yes, it's the energy that we use to create. If you are connected, if you like when you're creating something and you just come back to your body at the moment when you feel like there is this flaw where you just lose yourself and it's kind of like nothing exists. When you take that conscious decision and connect with yourself, with your body, where do you feel that? You know, it's still the sexual energy, you know, because it flows through you. And like I said, it's the desire. When you desire something and you feel worthy of it. Because on the other hand, the reason why people do not create what they desire is because of the guilt and shame that is connected to this. At times the desire is coming through, but then their body is tensing because it's kind of like it's not safe, shame, whatever. We're even ashamed to say exactly what we want. You know, if you say maybe you want a Lamborghini, especially when you look at the spiritual community or beliefs, it's kind of like, yeah, you know, it's not spiritual. You know, you should strive to make more impact and all that, but leave out the the physical, whatever that comes with that, but on the other hand, we know that even if you can claim that you want to help the world or you want to help create peace, you can't do shit if you're coming from that scarcity. You can't do shit when you are broke, but there's a lot of things that you can do when you have more. So yeah, it's
Right.
the energy that is very big on creating what we desire, and is even more magical when, whether you have a partner or you are connected. When I talk about connecting to your energy, like at an individual basis, like that sovereign freedom that you have, what is your relation with this energy on an individual basis? Because you can still use it to create when that comes through. I realized that even with me, when I feel that horniness, like whatever that is coming through, it's not coming through to say find someone to sleep with, but that's what people believe. It's coming
Right.
through because there's something that I need to create. But because I mean, when I look at it back then, yeah, for me it was kind of like, yeah, I'm the sexual active person. This is why at times I would be stuck in toxic relationship, but the sex was good. But then I would just stay there, and it doesn't get me anywhere. But the more I did the work, healed, and started doing my work, it's what flows through me. Whether I'm doing the healing session or I'm creating, it's the energy that flows through me. And I'm also aware when I'm doing something that is not in alignment. I can feel the disconnection from this energy. It's kind of like I'm forcing something. But when I'm fully connected and it's in alignment, it's like the flow that is within me. And this is what I'm saying is the energy that makes you say yes to life, say yes to your desires. It makes you take that action, especially if the masculine is holding that structure for you to feel safe. And how you walk. And I believe if you're listening, you've had sex, how you walk when you've had that fulfilling sex, and you just walk differently. You may meet someone who you perceived as an enemy, and in that particular moment in time, it's kind of like hi with the biggest smile. You forgot that you haven't been talking or anything because you are in your own planetary level. It's kind of like you glow. This is why people would say, why is it that when I don't have a partner, then no one is interested? But the moment I start having someone, everybody wants me, because you produce those hormones within you. And why do you produce those hormones only when you have a partner? That also shows that you don't know how to use this energy for you, for your own creation. You are not connected to it on a deeper level. Because it's also the energy that activates that presence. If you are attracted to someone, you're going to be present here. You're going to feel here in the present moment, right? Even when you're talking about accelerate, like it also accelerates whatever you want to manifest. People do a lot of, what do you call them? Vision boards,
Mm.
visualization. And I'm not saying those things don't work. They flipping work. But what is magical is you feeling, embodying what you desire. It's the feeling that is within. It's still that sexual energy that when you connect with it, you feel like it's here. You are experiencing it in the present moment. So this is the part that the law of attraction does not teach. You do visualization, affirmation. Even affirmation, the reason why they don't work is because people are not feeling them. And it's not even about good, right, wrong, of whatever words. Someone, like I told you about the woman who I said she hated her mom because of her achievements and she felt that they were being used. She hated the word proud. She couldn't say, I'm proud of myself. But she would rather
Mm.
say that to say, I'm proud of my child for, but not for her. But we can say proud is a positive word. But if she felt like the only person that I wanted to be proud of me was never proud of me, for her it's a negative word. That's how her body is responding. So it's not about the words, it's the frequency that the word
Mm.
says. When someone say, I fucking love you, they say it fucking, but they say I love you, and you can feel the energy. But when someone say fuck you and is coming with, you can, it's the frequency that is in there. So the feeling is the magic of healing, is the magic of creation, and it's coming from that sexual energy. And even I love when you say it about the energy, because energy is the biggest asset that can work for us. But for most people, it's working against them. Why is that? Because they think it's all about the mind. This is what I know, the position, status, and all that. But when you open the door, your energy is going to say hi before you can open your mouth. And even when I'm talking about embodied leadership, it's somebody who walks and you can see there is something about this person, but I don't know what it is. But it makes me pay attention. There is something about this woman, like many men navigate towards her. They want to be with her, but she's not beautiful. I mean, we talk about this. There was a time, but it's not about, even because I've been attacked by women who believe like, oh, I'm intelligent, sexual energy is not everything, I'm more than my genitals. I mean, people say this, and when we dug deep, we realized that they're saying those things because for them it's like sexual energy means someone has to be attracted to me. Now because men don't look at me twice, that means that energy is useless. But it's your natural desire. It's not about what the other man wants. And it's not even based on your outer appearance. This is why some people would wonder, what did they see in her? It's her energy that goes to attract that.
Yeah. This is why I particularly like um, learning about JFK, Marilyn Monroe. These two people had incredible sexual presence and energy that wasn't even particularly sexual. It was just very magnetic, right?
Yeah.
But I think the basis that what they were using is sexual energy, but it was very magnetic energy. And even, Marilyn Monroe, who was seen as this icon of beauty, and yes, she was good looking, but, like you said, beauty, there's more than one person can be, attractive. So what made her different is, I think, is this natural state of being so in tune with that energy that she just displays it with
Yeah.
vibrancy. And,
Yeah.
I think JFK did the same thing. Some others, some people I've met, I've noticed, I think there is this power to what you're saying. Is what's unfortunate is there's this power to create. It's a desire. It stems from a desire and a power to create. You said this earlier and I loved it. You said, along the lines of, ideas are birthed. In order for idea to be birthed, it first must be conceived. You said something like that. And I think that applies here, right? You have a desire and you need to use that energy to create it. But what's unfortunate, I think most people find the cheaper outlet to let out that energy,
Ooh.
right? Either themselves, their partner, adult media content, all sorts of just escapes to just kind of get rid of that. So I think that's unfortunate because,
Ooh.
thinking wise, it makes sense. Okay, I'm feeling something. I need to go, do something. But why is it that we kind of pick the cheaper option, or naturally move towards the cheaper option? Because is it because we don't have enough clarity on what we truly desire? Is that it?
What I loved when you said is like something to get rid of. And I believe the video that is in my website talks about we sexual energy is kind of like something that I need to get rid of. We don't think about it of like I need to get this edge off. You understand? I need to get rid
Hmm.
of this. So it's like, yeah, but it's coming from the conditioning that I mean, we've been conditioned that this energy, first thing, you're not supposed to have sex before you're married. I mean, now it's not like really something that is very important, but back then it was like something that is very important in the sense that you could feel the thickness of shame in the air of someone. And I still remember the church that my parents were going to. When you had a child and you were not married, when you come back to church, there was a certain place where these people had to be. It's kind of like, I don't even know what to call that. It's kind of like things that are questioned. It's just like, what shit is this? You know? and and some churches, and even up to date, even if you are menstruating, you can't come to church or you can't do the normal things that you do. So there is sense of dirtiness when it comes to this being a sinner. So it's something that we don't have any choice because our body wants it. So it's kind of like we don't know what to do with it, but it's filled with shame and guilt. And this is why there's also a lot of darkness around it, a lot of wounding around it, because it's something that is like there in the dark. And even talking about in the dark, when most of the people when they have sex, it's kind of like switch off the light and let's just do let's do the doing. I don't want to look at you. I don't want you to I don't want you to see my body and all that. So it's more, and this is why I'm talking about performance. I'm gonna do what I need to do, but I'm not connected to my body. I'm not appreciating what I'm doing. I'm not being here in the present moment. So we're not relating with it. at the level of appreciation, creating, and also expansion, because it's the energy that also multiplies. So what are you using it for? The multiplication, we see it when you're making a child. That's a multiplication. So if you are using it from that shame and guilt, then it's more like deepening that shame and the guilt and the not enoughness, which at times you sleep with people just because. And the truth of it is, with time, women, it's kind of like, if I sleep with this guy, if I don't sleep with this guy, he may leave or may cheat. Or maybe when I sleep with this guy and really give this person a good performance and whatever, this person may end up loving me. So we use sex to get love.
Mm.
So, and men use sex actually just for them. It's kind of like, I want to release this tension that I'm feeling. I'm angry. Something happened. Something is not right. This is why even when we look at the toxicity of the up and down of, we just gonna argue and then we want to tear each other apart. Then we have this make-up sex and all that. So we don't really have the clarity of what this energy is. We don't even know how to relate with it. This is why there's a lot of even sexual addiction around it. There's people who exude this energy naturally, like the Marilyn Monroe. They exude it naturally. But again, because it's an attractive energy, it's magnetic. It's going to attract anything and everything because
Mm.
that's what it is. But the question is, do you have like standards? Do you have boundaries enough to know who you allow in? Or for you, it's going to be like it's a tool. I remember another woman say to me, men want me. And for her, it was the men want me, as in I can have as many men that I want. And she got pissed off when I asked her, but what are you displaying to your girls? Because she had two girls. And she said, don't play the psychology thing with me. you know, and she was also a psychologist, funny enough. And this is the whole thing, of, if I go learn something from a book, I've learned something from a book. I don't care whether it's coaching, therapy, whatever that you learn. The question is, are you the embodiment of that?
Mm.
Because for her, like, this was her power. Men want me, and I've been initiated into this energy so deeply that at times when I come out of those deeper teaching and seeing, I understand why patriarchy did what it did to sort of like suppress this energy in women. And because it's a very it's a powerful energy. And if it lands in the hands of a woman who is head, a woman who is not embodying her queen or her goddess self, they're gonna hurt a lot of men. It's very dangerous, like seriously dangerous. Because it's hypnotic. It's all the things. If somebody exudes this energy naturally, so at times when women also say like, "Oh, I want an emotional available man," and all that. If a man is like fully in touch with himself and they meet vampires, like women who are using this to get whatever that they want, ah, yeah, they're gonna do a lot of damage. So when someone says, I want an emotional available partner, the question is, do you have the capacity to hold space for that man? Are you the embodiment of your queen self, of your goddess self, for you to be with a king? This is why I'm big on men healing and women healing and have higher standards. Because if you are not, you're just gonna be led by this energy and you're gonna sleep with everyone. You're gonna use it to manipulate people and hurt other people. So there's a lot in there. There's a lot in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like how you mentioned to not let that energy lead you, because I think that's where we kind of fall into the vices of escape or whatever, to get, like we said, get rid of it, right? It's the
Yeah.
way you think about it. But what I'm curious now is, okay, then the ideal thing here to do is, especially when you're by yourself or you're working on something or a big goal, is to transmute that, is to push that into your desires, right? Use that magnetic energy for good. But which I find an interesting side point you said, is it, if you use it for bad, it can hurt people, which I think is a clear, there's countless examples that you can hear from people, guys and girls side, that I think that energy can hurt people if not used correctly, right? So if you're putting it into your desires, how can one gain clarity? Because if they're still running to issues, right? They're still running to a partner. They're still running to self gratification, whatever they're running for to get rid of that energy. Then clearly there's a disconnect here, and they don't have full clarity. Otherwise, they would know to put that way, right? Or what do you think? Is it a clarity issue? Is it a discipline issue? What is it?
As much as I love discipline, the thing is, discipline is more like I mean, it can be like kind of like I'm in control. It's kind of like you are forcing something.
Yeah,
I understand people at times will be like, I'm in control of my emotion, even when you're talking about emotional intelligence, which is more like, like they suppress their emotion and they think they're in control. You are not
yeah.
feeling them. So at times when it's kind of like I have to be controlling. It's kind of like you are fighting against you. But when you are in connection, like you are, like I said, we have that deep relationship with it. You work with it. You are in alignment with it. It's kind of like you flow together. But that cannot happen if you are functioning from old templates, whether it's the templates of unworthiness, whether it's the templates of betrayals, abuse, rejection, and abandonment that happen. Because when you are coming from that, you don't you don't have the capacity. Basically, you don't even feel safe in your body. This is why you rush to find
Mm,
somebody else. So healing is very important. Let's just call a thing, because you may have read books, find a lot of affirmation and all that, but that means nothing if at all I am not connected to me. If you are creating your life from old templates, because like we said, energy is what greets us before we can say anything. It's not about things that you may have seen physically happen, but it's the energy of what is around, because there is also even the collective consciousness that influence us. So when we look at the collective consciousness, that often we are still connected to that. So you need to also know who you are individually and know when you are being influenced by what is around you. So when you disconnect from all the ancestral imprints and patterns and the collective consciousness and all that, and you also work on the experiences that may have led to that addiction, because a wound is always looking for a way to heal. But at the same time, when a wound is looking for it's kind of like it's looking for a light, and it will try to
mm,
find that light. And before it can get to that light, it's going to meet something that is at that vibration, and that particular person or experience is going to trigger something that says you need to pay attention here. I was looking for
mm,
a emotionally loving person. I was looking for love. I had 2 children. It was whatever that it was. And then I met my ex-husband now. And still, I felt like, oh my God, where have you been? And all that. Like, it was kind of like great in the beginning. And I kind of like also knew again, just before we went anywhere, that this is not for me. But on the other hand, there are patterns that he held that I was navigating towards. When I look at my past, when I say I'm a daddy's girl, my daddy loved me. He died when I was 14. But there are patterns of dysfunction, alcohol addiction. And when I look at my relationship, oh, I navigated toward those people. So my nervous system was craving what it called love. That's what I knew. And the subconscious always gets what it wants. Consciously, I thought I knew what I knew, I affirmed whatever shit. But at the end of the day, a man who was embodying his key, fully connected to his emotions, would have been a turn off for me, because I was not vibrating at
mm.
that level.
That's great insight, because what I'm kind of getting from what you're saying is, if somebody's running away from this energy towards something else, it may and probably usually results in a lower vibrating frequency of some sort of emotion, right? Shame, guilt, hopelessness, whatever these lower frequency of negative emotions are, is now pulling you towards, I guess, your more primitive state of like seeking instant pleasures, food, sex, whatever, right? Versus when you're resonating at a higher frequency, which is like we talked about at the beginning here, going full circle, is authenticity. Naturally, you'll be able to move that energy towards something greater because you're just vibrating at a higher frequency already. Um, because I think part of creativity can only stem when you're confident, have conviction, and are authentic, like you had mentioned at the beginning. I think those
Yeah.
three really push for this energy to be utilized and become more magnetic. Um, you know, I want to ask you one last question here that I love to wrap up the show with my guests. The show is called Learn or Be Learned, so I usually end the show with asking, what is one life lesson that either you learned from somebody or you want the audience to learn from your own life that you like to close off with today?
Who are you willing to become? That's the question that I'm going to ask you, because that's a question that somehow along the way of my decision making, I had to ask myself that. I can choose to go with whatever shit that I see playing out in my life, or I can choose to become a different version of myself, a different version of my family, and all that. And just to wrap that up, I would say the level that you are not fully free is the level that you are not fully joyful, and that is the level that you are not fully loving.
Hmm. Or the level of who you truly are, right? Your authentic self.
Yeah. Because when you are not your authentic self, you are not free.
Right, right. So would you say that was the key to changing your life around? It started with understanding your authentic self?
Yeah, I needed to be free because I'm here on a path on my soul calling, this purpose that has been following me and collapsing everything that I thought I was so that I can know who I was. And I found myself, whether it was family, husband, and they were against that. So that means as much as I was trying to fit in, there was a lot that I was swallowing. I couldn't share my truth. And that means at some level, I was not happy, I was not joyful, and I was not actually even loving them fully, because my love was kind of like, I just hope that you change. Kind of like, I'm going to do everything that I can for you to change. And every time when you find yourself like, oh, if this partner can change and all that, wake up, because you are loving a version of them that they have not fully unleashed, and they may not unleash that. So I find that a
Yeah.
lot where it's kind of like, yeah, there is potential. They stop falling in love with potential. Wake the fuck up and just go for what you know you need and what somebody has already unleashed. And the most important thing by that is looking at a part of you that either wants to rescue that person or that want that person to change. Because often we project. It can be potential. It can be our wound. And you're like, if this person can change and be that, what if you are the one who's called to be that and more?
Yeah. And you had mentioned earlier about how if you're not fully healed, you'll attract people that are also not fully healed. So I think that's also important is there's just endless benefits to working on yourself first. And then you
Absolutely.
can, right, you'll attract somebody who's on that same wavelength as you if you're a healed person. I've noticed in my life when I was, you know, using drinking or whatever to just kind of escape a problem, I was attracting people that also did the same thing and just weren't fully healed people either. So you notice friends, everything, people, your circle. Um, I think there is a lot of power to knowing yourself. But
Absolutely. I just love that, especially, for someone who has had, I mean, I have 3 children and I know what I went through. My advice is, especially if you haven't had children, even if you have them, you still need to do the work, because when you look at the depth of doing the work, whether it's ancestral work and all that, it's how this can transform, change things for you, change things for your children, you know. But on the other hand, if you have not if you don't have any children already, what is the best way for you to start working on that so that you can choose
mhm,
somebody who is already in that vibration, who is held, and you can create together? Because honestly, the person that you have children with, hmm, yeah, it plays a big role in your life, because it's not about, okay, fine, we've got children and we're not together. It's kind of like you are bind together lifelong and whatever shit that is going to happen with co-parenting and all that. You may be evolved and someone is not, and you still have to do with all the shit, navigate all that shit and all that. It's a lot of work. If I had known
Right.
what I know now, I would have made better choices. But unfortunately I had to go through those choices. Those choices. And my purpose is to help you not to go through the same choices that I made. Life would be
Yeah.
better if you can, because we meet, even when you're talking about soulmate, people, they love the idea. Oh, I want my soulmate. I want to attract my soulmate. How can you attract your soulmate if you're not doing any soul work? You know, that's
Yeah.
that right?
Yeah.
People just say,
Yeah.
I want my soulmate, and you're not doing any shit soul work, and you are surprised that
Yeah.
your life is the way it
That's like
is.
saying
Right.
you wanna be a millionaire and you don't wanna work. You know?
Exactly. Like what?
Yeah.
It's gonna just fall from the the clouds or some
Yeah.
shit like that. It doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I think the ideas of like manifesting and things people laugh at is because people think it's this idea you just wish and sit there, but it's really just deep inner work. I mean, you talk to any entrepreneur, they say the hardest part was getting started because there was so much work in here that they had to overcome the doubts, the fears, whatever they went through in order to believe in themselves. Um, which, if there's one thing I got, is, this idea of understanding yourself and healing and how important it is.
Yeah. And also, even when you look at working on yourself, like the magical thing that I love about it is you release a lot of baggages that you're holding, and often 80% is not even your stuff. And
Yeah.
when you are trying to create from those old templates, doing things, working on things that are not yours, other people's stuff are overwhelming to your system. This is why a lot of people have this high functioning anxiety, they're being burnt out and all that, because you can't heal what's not yours. Right. And when you do the work, you have that emotional resilience, you have the capacity to deal with whatever change. And going back to you meet somebody, you make love, then you conceive this baby, you're gonna take that 9 months nurturing this beautiful soul. It's not like you're just gonna give birth. You're gonna go through those pains, before you give birth to this thing. But even when you're going through this pain, you are being pulled by, because you know the outcome that you're gonna have. You're gonna have this beautiful soul that you've been anticipating, looking forward to have it. Right. So when you've done the work, it's still the same experience. You may have some challenges along the way, but because you are rooted, anchored, one with the outcome or your why, you know what's gonna come at the end. You are anchored in that. You are not being taken by any wind that blows around you. So it's the same process. When I say let's make love with life, that's just it. We're gonna fall pregnant, conceive something, we're going to give birth to something, but it doesn't mean that it's like from one day to the other, or it's going to be just smooth. No, it's not going to be like that. But at the end of the day, you are anchored in who you are and the outcome that you desire, and that's where magic happens.
Yeah. I love that. And, I hope the people listening, if there's one strong point to take is, you know, growing up myself, and I've met many people, is people are always looking at money goals and goals of success and things like this. But one thing that's never talked about is understanding yourself and becoming truly authentic because, like you've said, you've talked to doctors who don't love what they do, and
Mhm.
I've talked to many as well. I've talked to entrepreneurs who regret going all in and not working on their health, right? So there is this
Yeah.
well-rounded being that you envision is like your ultimate self, right? You don't see yourself being rich and poor health. You want good health and you want wealth. So that means you're a balanced being, which means you got to kind of truly understand yourself. And if there's one thing I understood from money's an amplifier. It just shows you who you already are. It doesn't make you the person that you're hoping to be. um, I talk to one of my friends all the time, and I tell him, you know, something I have to keep relearning is enjoying the journey because that's who I'm wanting to be. Is not the end result of this kind of podcaster or making this kind of money. It's who am I at that point in life, and how can I be more of that today? Um, I think that's really powerful because if you want any amount of success, any amount of fulfillment in life, I think you first got to do that inner work.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because some
Well,
people don't even have the capacity to receive. They want all these
yeah,
things, but they don't have the capacity to receive what they want. It's here. But you are
yeah,
full of all other people's stuff and all the fears, doubts, and everything. Where are you gonna have that?
yeah. Well, thank you so much for being on the show today and sharing some amazing wisdom. I gained a lot of clarity, so I'm sure others will too. And thank you for your time.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.